What if the one thing keeping you broke is not how little you earn, but that money has always happened to you and never for you? This is the story of Marcus Webb, a 46-year-old man who drove a delivery truck for a living. A man who smelled like diesel and cardboard every evening when he came home to his apartment in Cincinnati, Ohio. A man who, for 23 years, believed that building wealth was a game designed for other people with degrees, connections, or a head start he never got. He was wrong, but it took a hospital waiting room and one very unusual retired plumber to show him why. Marcus woke every morning at 5:10. Not because he wanted to, because his route started at 6:30 and the depot was 40 minutes away. He would pull on his uniform in the dark, drink black coffee standing at the kitchen counter, and walk out into whatever weather Cincinnati had decided to throw at him that day. He had driven for the same logistics company since he was 23. Started as a loader, worked his way to driver. He was reliable, punctual, and had never had a serious accident in over 2 decades on the road. His manager liked him. His customers knew his name. He took pride in his work, the quiet kind that doesn't need an audience. He earned $38,000 a year. After rent on his 2-bedroom apartment, truck insurance, groceries, his son Deshaun's asthma medication, and the $200 a month he sent to his mother in Memphis, there was almost nothing left. Some months he floated a small credit card balance just to get through. He told himself he'd pay it off when things got easier. Things never got easier. The balance just moved, like water finding its level. Marcus was not reckless. He was not careless with money. He simply never had enough margin to do anything with it. He was, by any honest measure, a man who worked hard and stayed exactly where he was. And after 23 years, that fact had stopped surprising him. It had started to define him. On a Wednesday in February, his phone rang at 11 a.m. It was his sister Denise, calling from Memphis. Their mother, 69 years old, the woman who had worked double shifts as a hospital aide to keep Marcus in school, had been rushed to the ER. Chest pains. They were running tests. She was admitted. Marcus drove to Memphis that night after his shift ended. He sat in a waiting room chair under fluorescent lights for 4 hours. When the doctor finally came out, he told Marcus his mother needed a procedure. She would be fine, but she had no insurance. She'd lost her coverage when she stopped working the year before, and the out-of-pocket cost for the procedure and 3-day stay would be over $11,000. Marcus looked at his phone. His checking account had $847. His savings account, the one he'd opened with good intentions 8 years ago, had $214. He sat in that waiting room chair and did not cry. He was too tired to cry and too angry to sleep. What he felt instead was something he had no clean word for. It was the particular shame of a man who has worked hard his entire adult life and discovered, at 46 years old, that he has almost nothing to show for it. Not because he was lazy, not because he made bad choices, just because he never learned the one thing nobody ever taught him. 23 years of honest work. And I'm sitting here with $847 and a bill for $11,000. Marcus Webb, age 46. He called his sister back. "I'll figure it out," he said. He put $3,000 on a high-interest credit card. He borrowed $4,000 from 2 friends who could barely afford it. The rest went on a payment plan with the hospital at 18% APR. His mother came home safely. Marcus came home to a new kind of weight, the kind that compounds monthly whether you show up to work or not. 6 weeks after his mother's discharge, Marcus drove back to Memphis to check on her. On the way out of her apartment building, he stopped by the parking lot to call his supervisor about a schedule change. He was sitting on the hood of his truck, still on hold, when an old man walked out of the building next door and sat down on a concrete bench about 20 feet away. The man was maybe 72, thick-shouldered, wearing a faded Carhartt jacket and work boots that had seen decades of use. He opened a brown paper bag and took out a sandwich. He ate it like a man with nowhere to be, slowly watching the street. Marcus finally hung up, frustrated. The old man glanced over. "Whoever kept you on hold that long," he said, "doesn't deserve the call back." Marcus laughed despite himself. They talk the way people do when they're both tired and neither of them has anywhere to rush. about the neighborhood, about Marcus's mother, about the hospital bill. At some point Marcus said, out loud, more to the parking lot than to the old man. 23 years working and I don't have $11,000. I don't know how that's possible. The old man chewed his sandwich. I do, he said simply. You want to know? His name was Earl. Retired plumber. Had worked with his hands his whole life. Raised 4 kids in Memphis on a tradesman's wages after his wife passed when the youngest was still in diapers. By the time he retired, he owned his apartment outright, had no debt, and had put every one of his kids through community college. He was not wealthy by any magazine's definition, but he had quietly and completely won his own version of the game. How? Marcus asked. Earl reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a single dollar bill. He set it on the bench between them. $1, he said. Every single morning. That's it, Marcus said. That's where it starts, Earl said. Every morning, before coffee, before your phone, before you do a single thing for anyone else, you take $1 and you put it somewhere separate. Ayar. An envelope. A second account. Somewhere you can see it. $1. $1 doesn't do anything, Marcus said. You're right, Earl said. $1 doesn't do anything. But the act of putting it aside does everything. He turned to look at Marcus directly. What is your relationship with money right now? Marcus thought about it. It comes in. It goes out. I try to keep up. Exactly. Money happens to you. You are a passenger. The $1 does not make you rich. It makes you the driver. Even if the car is a beat-up truck going 20 miles an hour, you are driving. That is different from everything you have done before. Earl explained it the way only a man who has lived it can, not like a book, but like a set of instructions passed from one working man to another. Every morning, before spending a single cent, Marcus would set aside $1. Just one. At the end of the first week, $7. Not a fortune, but money he chose. Money that was his before the world had a chance to take it. Then, at 13 weeks, Earl was specific about the number 13 weeks, not 90 days, because 13 weeks is a full quarter and a quarter feels like an achievement. Marcus would double it. $2 a day. At 6 months, $5. At 1 year, whatever felt right. The dollar amount mattered less than the ritual. Pay yourself first, even $1, before anyone else gets a claim on your morning. The problem isn't your income, Earl said, folding up his paper bag. The problem is that you have never, not once in 23 years, paid yourself before you paid the world. Start there. Everything else comes after. The $1 rule. Pay yourself first. Even $1. Before the world asks. Before the bill. Before the coffee. Week 1. $1 per day. Week 13. $2 per day. Month 6. $5 per day. The amount is not the habit. The habit is the amount. Week 1, $7 in a mason jar. And a feeling he couldn't name. Marcus kept a wide-mouth mason jar on the kitchen counter next to the coffee maker. Every morning before he poured his first cup, he took $1 from his wallet and dropped it in the jar. By Sunday night, 7 singles sat at the bottom. The money meant nothing. But every morning when he dropped the bill in before doing anything else, he felt something he had not felt in years, like he was choosing, just once each day, to be first in line for his own life. He didn't have a word for it. He decided the word was before. Week 7, $49. And the credit card bill arrives. The hospital payment plan took its first $150 that month. The credit card minimum was $89. Marcus paid both, same as always. But this month, looking at $49 in the mason jar, something had shifted. That $49 was untouched. He had not borrowed from it. He had not moved it. It was his in a way the rest of his money never was. It was small and it was armor. He understood, for the first time, why Earl had been specific about a jar you could see. Week 13, $91. He opens a high-yield savings account. For real this time. 13 weeks after the parking lot conversation, Marcus deposited $91 into a new online savings account, separate from his checking, no debit card attached. He set a photo of the confirmation screen as his phone wallpaper. Not to brag. To see. 13 weeks ago, he had $214 in savings accumulated over 8 years of half-hearted trying. This $91 he had built in 13 weeks on purpose. The difference was not the amount. The difference was that this time he had started before the world asked him for anything. Act 6. The month he almost quit. Month 4 hit hard. Deshawn's inhaler prescription had changed and the new one wasn't covered. $140 out of pocket. The truck needed new brake pads. Another $220. Marcus's overtime got cut because the company lost a regional contract. Everything landed in the same 3-week window the way trouble always does. He stood at his kitchen counter at 5:15 a.m. holding a dollar bill. He needed that dollar. Not specifically that dollar, but the $23 in the jar behind it. He looked at the jar. He looked at his phone showing his checking account balance. He thought, this is a stupid idea for a man in my situation. I'll start again when things calm down. Things never calm down. He stood there for a long time. Then he put the dollar in the jar, drank his coffee black because he was out of creamer, and left for his route. Months later he would say, that was the real day it started. Not the first dollar. That dollar, the one I dropped in when I had no business dropping it in, that was the one that made it real. 12 months after the parking lot, Marcus's savings account held $2,190. Not enough to retire, not enough to buy a house, but enough to pay off the hospital payment plan entirely, 6 months early, and close that account in January. The moment the confirmation email arrived, he sat in his truck in the depot parking lot for 10 minutes before starting his route. He did not call anyone. He just sat there. By month 18, he had started a second account. A Roth IRA, the first investment account he had ever opened in his life. He was contributing $25 a month. His financial advisor, a free session through his union's benefit program, which he had never thought to use before, told him that $25 a month at his age, compounding over 20 years, was worth more than most people understood. Marcus was not most people anymore. He was still driving the same route, still earning $38,000 a year. He had not received a raise or won a lottery or discovered a side hustle. He had simply, finally, stopped being a passenger in the one vehicle that mattered most. He ran into Earl once more, at a gas station in Memphis a year and a half after the parking lot. Earl was filling up a beat-up Ford pickup. Marcus pulled in behind him. They talked for a few minutes, the way men do who don't need to say much. How much? Earl asked. $4,200, Marcus said. No hospital debt. First IRA. Earl nodded. He didn't say, good job or I told you so. He just said, you understand now. Understand what exactly? Marcus asked. Earl screwed the gas cap back on. That rich people don't save what's left after spending. They spend what's left after saving. You spent 23 years doing it backward. He looked at Marcus steadily. Now you're doing it right. You won't recognize yourself in 5 years. Rich people don't save what's left after spending. They spend what's left after saving. $1 flips the order. That is the whole secret. Earl, retired plumber, Memphis, Tennessee. The 4 wealth lessons inside this story. Lesson 1, pay yourself first. Before the world gets $1 of your morning, give 1 to yourself. This is not a savings tip. It is a declaration that you are a participant in your own financial life, not just a wire transfer between your job and your bills. Tomorrow morning, before coffee, before your phone, before anything, take $1 and put it somewhere separate. Ayar. An envelope. A second account. Do it first. That single act rewrites the relationship. Lesson 2, wealth is a direction. Marcus did not become wealthy. He became someone moving consistently and deliberately in one direction. That is a more useful goal than get rich, because you can start it tomorrow on any income at all. The question is not, how much do I have? The question is, which direction am I moving? Standing still when interest compounds and time passes is the same as walking backward. Lesson 3, the bad day test. A habit becomes yours the first time you keep it on a hard day. Anyone can save when it is easy. The month the brakes go out and the prescription changes and the overtime disappears, that month is not a reason to stop. That month is the exam. Pass it once, and the habit belongs to you forever. When you feel like skipping, drop the dollar anyway. Go without the creamer if you have to. Do not skip the dollar. Lesson 4, the compound of character. Money compounds, but so does the person who manages it. Every morning Marcus chose the jar. He was building something economists call financial agency. The felt sense that you control your outcomes. That feeling changes the decisions you make, the risks you're willing to take, and what you believe is possible for you. Marcus's $4,200 was not just money. It was 548 mornings of choosing himself first. No one can lend you that. No one can take it from you either. Closing. You don't need to earn more to begin. You need to begin, and then slowly you become someone who earns more. $1. Tomorrow morning, before anything else.